If you're not sure what that means, you're not alone. Plenty of people wonder what it means to be queer. Well, I know the dictionary definition. As according to Merriam-Webster, queer is differing in some way from what is usual or normal. So, a queer person is just a person who isn't your average cisgender monogamous heterosexual human being, any one of those categories. To learn more about being queer, much like anything, the best thing to look at is its history. I know the history can be boring, but bear with me here. As according to history.org, in order to get the ball rolling on queer rights, homosexuals had to go through concentration camps, and it only became widely known after whole novels were written about it. Then people started taking notice on queer issues, mostly homosexuals. Looking at general history, queer history appears to be very modern, with most well-known pieces of queer literature dating back only 100 or 200 years, with very few examples coming before World War II. But that's not all. Because of the modernity, as according to civil rights lawyer with the American Bar Association, John W. Davidson, lots of people misunderstand the movement itself, saying, and I quote, "People who wonder if the glass is half full miss the point. The glass is refillable." Meaning most people never even take into consideration that maybe we need more than what's in the bare bones history and current rights. Said by well-respected author Bonnie J. Morris, one problem is colonization. Like most civil issues, they only came into being in most cultures after the modern normal was forced onto them. But that wasn't all she wrote. In many societies, such as China and Korea, and most of the Orient actually, drag humor was very popular, pushing the idea of non-conforming gender identity into something silly and contrived. Heck, even Organization of American Historians member Christina Hanhart discusses this, how the very history of queer people is sparse to come by, mostly due to a lack of preservation, and only now are we getting such massively important movements in queer literature itself. Because of a lack of information surrounding this, like any subject, it allows slews and slews of misinformation. Christina Handart says that's because of a lack of education surrounding queer literature, people are less likely to take queer issues seriously. But it's not just queer people. As John W. Davidson says, minorities of all types are the most vulnerable members of the LGBTQ community. Many have suffered horrific violence, police misconduct, unremedied discrimination, and poverty. Those who are already vulnerable minorities and are in at-risk groups risk even further discrimination for the simple fact that they are queer. But like most social issues, any person, even high schoolers, could help through simple acts, from public protests to donations to simply showing solidarity. Not meaning you have to get blue hair and pronouns, not that there's anything wrong with that, but that all it takes is something simple like an addition in a social media bio. And when it comes to a lack of education, there's plenty of resources available to the public, from books to articles to movies. It's extremely easy to educate yourself on these things. As I said before, all being queer means is not being normal, and the history of those not normal has been willingly forgotten by a great deal of modern historians. But that history is massive and deep and fruitful even. With that being said, the history of queer people is there, just hard to come by, mostly due to a lack of people talking or teaching it. But it's still there, in libraries and articles and in even people. So maybe whenever you come across something weird or different, especially people, take an extravaganza, get a new perspective, because people can surprise you, and they're not as different as you might think. C'est la vie.